Hello, everyone. Uh, we are delighted to be with you again in another event organized by MegaMind Plus Academy in the series of weekly webinars that are usually held on the night of Saturdays. And you know that MegaMind Plus Academy activities and services are in three sectors and three fields of education, training, and consultancy. And one of our ongoing events and activities is organizing webinars for specialists and experts in different fields to tackle and to talk about issues, problems, challenges that the education sector in general, higher education, students, and training and consultancy areas are suffering from. So today's webinar is going to be presented in English. And for today, the topic is a very interesting one related to reading, because we have real problems related to reading skill. People do not read, or if they want to read, they don't know how, because reading, like any other job, needs skills and requires some kind of strategies in order to be effective, in order to be useful for those who do it. So today's webinar title will be Promoting Reading Skills of English Language, and it will be presented by Dr. Selar Othamn Ali, who is working at Erbil Polytechnic University. As you know, our webinars usually will last for around 90 minutes, 1 hour and a half. And in this time, half of the time will be given to the speaker, and the rest would be for discussions, questions, and answers. You can participate in three ways: by sending in your comments or questions either via the chat box here in this Zoom, or you can raise your hand and we will allow you to unmute yourself and ask your question yourself. And this meeting or this webinar is live stream on Facebook page also of Academy as well. You can also put your questions there in the comment, and our staff will be transferring it to us, and then we will direct the questions instead of you. For those who have registered themselves previously, there's no need to write your name in the chat box, please. But those who have not filled the form yet, we will put the link. You don't need to write it in the chat box. We will put the link of the registration form here, so that you just with one click you can go there, and a couple of questions, then you will be registered. At the end of the webinar also, hopefully Dr. Selar will not mind to share the slides with the participants also, but maybe after we finish, because there might be some modifications later on, or some changes in the last minute to do. I will present Dr. Selar first shortly, though she has a very rich and somehow long CV, but usually we have a kind of brief introduction of the speakers. Selar is a senior lecturer in education, and she has got her PhD and master's degree in education in UK, PhD in 2017, University of Southampton, UK, MA in education 2008, University of Nottingham, UK, and BA in English Language in 2003 at the University of Salahuddin. She has several skills like translating and interpreting between English, Kurdish, and Arabic, in addition to leadership and management skills, some technology packages. She has written in her CV that she has also a valid driving license. Just for fun, I'm sticking to that one. About research and publications, she has several researches in international and national and local journals, publications. Some of them are published inside the country, and some of them are outside in international journals like World Academy of Science, Engineering, and Technology. And her PhD thesis was about higher education reform, a study of quality assurance and reform policy of higher education in Kurdistan region of Iraq. Her master's thesis also was entitled, "What Makes an Effective Team? Appraising the Role of Teamwork in Higher Education Institutions." She has been teaching several classes for undergraduate and postgraduate students at different universities. In addition to Erbil Polytechnic University, she has been teaching at Salahuddin University and other universities also. In addition to these academic activities, she has taken several positions and responsibilities. She has worked as the director of the acting general director of scholarship and cultural relations at the Ministry of Higher Education for some time, director of scholarship department at the Ministry of Higher Education again, and she was the head of academic relations or international office at Salahuddin University in 2006. She is now the head of grant office at Erbil Polytechnic University since 2018. She is also the head of cultural relations office, or called international office, at Erbil Polytechnic University again. She is also the head of the training center at Erbil Polytechnic University, in addition to many other positions in different programs, actually. She has attended several conferences and courses, again, in the country and outside the country, especially those that are very important. They are related to Erasmus and Erasmus Plus packages and programs, which in which she has played a leading role in gaining the funding and the academic awards there, actually. I think that's just a brief introduction about Dr. Selar. Concerning the topic of today, she has kind of presented a workshop. Actually, it was a 2-day workshop at the American Corner some weeks or days ago. That's why we were interested in the topic, and we invited her to present this topic for our audience as well. Dr. Selar, you are the co-host now. You can share your screen, and my watch says it is 9:10 p.m. So you have around 45 to 50 minutes, and then we try to allocate the rest of the time for discussions, for questions and comments. The floor is yours, Dr. Selar.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Himdat. That wasn't a brief introduction, it was very long. I just had to take a deep breath just to remind myself that I did all of this stuff. And by the way, Dr. Himdat was my teacher in my bachelor degree in Salahuddin University, and I'm proud to mention that. Okay, let me go quickly to the topic of this seminar. It's about promoting reading skills of English language. Well, it is supposed to be an interesting topic because we have many students and even others, not only students, they have difficulties in reading English language for many reasons. We will come to these reasons and how to overcome these difficulties. Before going to the details, in this seminar, I'm going to talk about the following subjects: what makes text difficult to understand, and goals of reading, types of reading, strategies for reading comprehension, reading techniques, and models. Okay. Before going to the reasons why sometimes texts are difficult to understand, I'm going to show you a sample of a text. Okay. And I wanted to take a few minutes, maybe, okay, it's now 9 and 11 minutes. I'll give you until 9:15 minutes. I wanted to read this for 4 minutes and then write down what are the difficulties that you face while reading this text, please. So you have only 3 minutes. Start, please. I want you to read silently and write down the difficulties that you face when you read this. Only 1 minute left. Okay, can anyone tell me the difficulties that you faced while reading this text? We have Shema says difficulties with the vocabularies and a short time. Muhammad Rashid says punctuation. Jaza Ahmed says time. Okay. Other difficulties? Background is black. Sazan. Shall we go for some more? The font, Reka says the font. We have Rafiq says difficulties in concept. Okay, thank you so much. I'll stop here. All what you mentioned are correct. I'm gonna talk to the presentation again, and let's see what are the difficulties. Okay. So here are most of the common difficulties that we face. So most of you are referring to the font size and the dark background. Thank you so much. I'll close the chat. Okay, so here are some of the common difficulties that readers face while reading any kind of text. So number one is the text has many unknown words, as one of you mentioned. You have new vocabularies or new words that you haven't heard about before. So this will affect the understanding of the text, correct? And second one, we have text has long, complicated sentences. Last year, I've been given a research paper on an A4 sheet. And believe me, half of the page, it was only one sentence. It is not usual, and it doesn't make sense if you write a long sentence, especially if I'm talking about half of the page. This is a very long, complicated sentence. It is possible to understand for me, but it doesn't make sense. You can cut it to several shorter sentences. And sometimes if you write a very long sentence, it will make it very complicated, and you even sometimes lose the idea or the meaning of that sentence. So try to, when you write something, try to make it short and meaningful. So this is another reason why texts are difficult to be understood. The third one, we have text is about a topic you know nothing about. For example, I am a teacher of English language, but if, for example, I read a book about physics, okay, so physics is not my interest. And maybe I don't have that rich background about physics. I get the idea, but I don't know what exactly that topic is about. So differences in background and interest will also affect the reading comprehension. Text is about a topic you find boring. For example, to me, and personally, I don't like to read a topic about politics. And when I read it, I might read 1 or 2 pages. They just close the book and don't continue. So you have to write something, to read something that is of interest to you. Okay, so you get fun of it and you get information from it. So it should be of interest to you. Another reason is the text has small print, long paragraphs, and no pictures. Okay, like the one I showed you. There was no picture and a very long paragraph and very small font, as some of you mentioned that. So it makes it difficult to read, and maybe you cannot even see clearly the exact words what they are written. The text has been badly written. All the above mentioned, or most of them, are available in the text that I showed you. Okay, this one. It is very badly written. We have problem with punctuation. We have problem with justifying it. We have problem with images. There are no images, maybe new vocabularies. So there are many difficulties in this one. Okay, let me go back to the reasons. You are feeling tired, maybe after a long day, and then you have some readings to do, but it's not a suitable time for that because you've been working all the day, you're exhausted, so you don't have the appropriate time for reading. You are distracted, either by your phone, by someone's calling you, by your manager, for example. So there are kind of distractions that stops you from reading. You do not know the important cohesion markers. So what are the things that make the parts of the reading cohesive, and significant. You do not know why you have to read the text. You don't know what is your goal. We don't know what is your aim, why you are reading that book, why you are reading that newspaper, why you are reading, for example, that paper, that research paper, for example. What is your aim? So you have to identify your aim. Okay, so these are the most common difficulties and problems that most people face while reading any text. And by text, we mean any kind of material, whether it is a book, a research paper, a story, whatever. Now let's see how we can solve these difficulties. What are the strategies that we can use in order to overcome these problems? First one, do not stop immediately, but keep reading a bit. Okay, you find it boring, you find it difficult, lots of new vocabularies. This a bit will make you, will push you to lose interest, but try to keep reading a bit. Maybe you find something interesting, don't stop. Think whether it's important to understand. Does it worth your time? Do you think it's important? Do you think you will get the information that you are looking for? If so, keep reading. Know that there are no easy ways to understand. Of course, nothing new you do for the first time could be easy. Every single new step comes with difficulties. So try to be patient and try to understand, look for meanings sentence by sentence, then paragraph by paragraph, and then you will get used to that. Study examples carefully. If you find examples in the text or in the book, try to look at the examples, because usually examples and pictures, diagrams will make understanding easier than reading only some sentences. Go slowly, make mental images of the meaning. As I said, try to make an image, try to make a picture of what you are reading. Go slowly, don't rush, okay? Take things easily and simply. Talk to yourself. Is that correct? Do I get it right? Does it mean that? Or what is the meaning of that word, of that sense? What is the meaning? What is the implication of that idea? So try to talk to yourself and you will have more self-confidence. Look up important words. What are the important or the key words that make the paragraph or the sentences or the whole text meaningful? Find these keywords. Look at beginnings of sections. Usually the first 2 sentences in each paragraph, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, will give you the main idea of that paragraph. So try to understand these few sentences at the top of each paragraph. It will make understanding and comprehension easier. Break down the puzzling passage into several parts. If you see, for example, a passage consists of 3 sections, 2 sections, 5, 6 sections, try to make it shorter, okay? Try to break them down and then try to understand. Even if you go sentence by sentence, don't give up. Draw a diagram. Especially this is for scientific subjects. You can draw a diagram and make connections between the idea. Try to figure out the overall framework. Okay, now you broke down the paragraphs, the sections, the sentences. Now connect them, draw a diagram, and find the bigger image of that text. Focus on the parts that you do not understand. When you break down the sentences, the sections, there must be, for example, a section or a few sentences that you still find it difficult. Pay more attention to these parts, give more time to yourself to analyze these, try to work a bit harder and get the meaning of these difficult parts. So in brief, we have these very important tips in the yellow books to help you understand and overcome difficulties. So you have first to read for a purpose. It doesn't matter what is that purpose, whether it is you are looking for information to write your dissertation, whether it is for fun, whether you want to spend time while reading. It's mostly for newspapers and stories. So you have to identify what is the purpose of your reading. Skim first. read very quickly. Don't go to every single detail. The first reading, we call it skimming. You just get a very general idea about what you're reading. Get the reading mechanics first, how you want to read it, what are the sections that you want to focus on, which one comes first, which one comes last. Be judicious in highlighting and note-taking. Try to take notes. Think in pictures, as we said, to make a diagram, a picture of what you are reading. Rehearse as you go along. Try to remember and remind yourself of what you are reading. Then stay within your attention span and work to increase that span. Okay? Rehearse again soon. So these are very short tips that will help you to overcome difficulties in reading. Now I move to the goals of reading. We have several goals, whether we search for simple information, skim, learn from a text, integrate information, writing, critique, and get general comprehension. I'll go to these one by one. Okay. The first one is we read in order to search for very simple information. This is a very common goal of reading. It can be for any category, whether it is for researchers, for only readers, and it is used to so often in reading tasks that is probably best seen as type of reading ability. So you only read to get a very preliminary information from the text. Please know that I know you are sending messages in the chat box, but I cannot read them now, so we'll leave it for the end of the seminar. The second goal of reading is to skim. As we said, as one of the strategies to overcome difficulties of reading is through skimming. So skimming is a very quick type of reading. You, for example, read the whole page or the whole pages, or maybe the whole book or the whole section. This is a very quick reading. It involves a combination of strategies for guessing where important might be in the text, and then using basic reading comprehension skills to make the bigger picture of that piece of reading. The third goal is we read in order to learn something from that text. And this is mostly for researchers, for academic purposes. Usually you're looking for an article, for a book, for any material in order to help you get some more information about the work or the research that you are doing. So we read in order to learn something from that text. And sometimes even you read a book because you're interested in. So you want to learn something new from that book. It doesn't matter to be only for research purposes. So it could be for your interest, personal interest. You find an article or buy a book because you think that the information that you're looking for is available in that material. We sometimes read in order to integrate information, to combine information. Something is missing and we are looking for that information. So we want to integrate that information with the one that we already have. So there is something missing, there is a gap, and we want to fill that gap. So this is another purpose of reading, in order to integrate information. Reading to write and critique. This text may be task variant of reading to integrate information. Both require abilities to compose, select, analyze information from a text. So this is again for academic purposes. We write something, we criticize something based on academic purposes, but we cannot do this unless we do enough reading and get enough information about that topic. So these are all the 5 general purposes or goals of why we read. Now I move to types of reading. We have 4 main types, intensive, extensive, aloud, and silent. Okay. In intensive reading, it is one of the types that focuses mostly on idioms, vocabularies, and the teacher that they are teaching in the classroom. So this kind of reading, the person who's reading, they have to go to all the details of the text. They focus, for example, on language, on grammar, on semantic, and so paying attention to details, as the title justify, it is intensive. So we read every single detail. In the extensive reading, for example, it is a bit opposite to the intensive one. In the extensive, we usually read for pleasure, for fun, for example, to spend time. We are not looking for something specific, anything we can read, like, for example, reading a newspaper or a magazine. So there's no specific, let's say, aim for, maybe we need to get information from what's going on today. So we take a newspaper and read something, or maybe you are looking for something, an interesting article in a magazine. You used to read that article every week, every month. So you buy that magazine again and again to read that article in that magazine. So you only read it to have information and update information, what is going on. But it is not, for example, for a research, for having all details about that thing. It is only to spend time for your entertainment. This is, we call it extensive. Allowed reading. This is most common in most of the schools nowadays, reading stories for kids. So the teacher is reading the story loudly for the children in order to be able to hear and understand. Also for reading poetry, we have dialogues, and these kind of texts can be read loudly. So we have some old students, while they prepare for exams, they study and read loudly at home or in library or in a public park. This is, we call it reading loudly. The final type of reading is silent reading. So the person is reading for himself without making any noise, any voices. Again, this is most common in students, among students while they are preparing for exams. So they only read silently without making any voice. These are the main types of reading. I move now to strategies for reading comprehension. We have several strategies. As you see, we have 6 strategies. These are very important to be presented and understood. Okay, the first one is we have to have prior knowledge, or we call it preview. In order for you, for example, because I'm specialized in English language, so I mostly give examples on English language. If, for example, I want to read a book about, let's say, novel in the 20th century. Okay, so I already have some information about a novel in the 20th century. So this is, we call it prior knowledge. But still, I am looking maybe for something specific in that century, or maybe a specific writer, or a specific theme in that period of time. So my previous knowledge or prior knowledge that I have about a novel in that century will help me to understand what I am looking for, and this will make comprehension easier for me than, for example, someone who might be interested in Islamic history and he or she doesn't have any idea about English novel in the 20th century. So this will make it a bit difficult for that person to understand and pay attention to the details of novel in that century. This is what we mean by prior knowledge. So when students preview text, they tap into what they already know that will help them to understand the text they are about to read. Okay, this provides a framework for any new information they read. Okay, so this is in brief. I just gave an example to simplify this explanation for you. You have to know what you are looking for in that text or in that book. Okay, by text, I refer generally to any material, whether it is book, a paper, or whatever. So this is the first strategy. You have first to have a prior knowledge of what you are reading. The second strategy is predicting. When you make prediction about the text that you are reading, it will set up expectations based on your prior knowledge about the similar topics. So they mentally revise their prediction as they gain more information. So again, here you might need to have a kind of prior knowledge, previous information about what you are reading. And what you are reading now will help you to predict what is going on to the end of the text reading. Third strategy, we have questioning. By questioning, this is mostly common among students where they prepare for exams. For example, you have the material in front of you, then you have to make questions and answers for yourself in order to help yourself understand the material easily. This is one of the best strategies while preparing for exams. The fourth strategy is analyzing text structure. Okay, this is mostly common again among researchers. For example, we have research papers a bit difficult to understand, so we have to divide that paper or that text into sections, and we have to know what, for example, what is the meaning of that section, what does it mean that one, what is the result of that, for example, idea, what, for example, that writer says, and what does he found. So all these, we call it analyzing the text structure. And this will help us understand the material more easily. And also we have to focus here on how the materials are presented. Is there any connection between the parts of the material? For example, is there anything, for example, does that part of the text is a result of a previous part, or which one is the reason of the other one? So we have to make connection and find the pattern between the parts of the text. The fifth strategy is visualizing. Many studies have found that students who visualize while reading have better recall than those who do not. So readers can take advantage of illustrations that are embedded in the text, or create their own mental images or drawings when reading a text. This will help understanding more easier, and this is especially common when, for example, we explain something for kids, or even for schools and for students in schools, and sometimes for students in their first year at university. So try to explain things and draw it maybe on the board to make connection between parts of what you are presenting, because maybe most of you know that a visual approach of learning is easier to understand, and it stays in the mind of students for a longer time. So whatever you try to explain, you try to draw it on the board, to try to help students to have an image about what you are saying. The last strategy we have is to identify the main idea and summarizing the whole text. This is most useful when we have a long text. So we read a very long text, a very long paper. So try to find the main ideas of that paper. How many ideas, how many results we have, how many reasons we have, what are the connection between this and that, and then try to make a summary of what you are reading as a bullet point. So you are just summarizing, focusing on the main ideas of what you have read. Okay, then go through these points and try to find if you have covered all the materials that you have just read. Okay, go through it again. And if you think it is enough, okay, don't go for another reading. Just focus on the bullet points that you have made. This will help you to understand the text you have read in advance. I think the only 2 topics are left, so I'll try to be a bit quicker. We have reading techniques and models. We have 2 main techniques for reading, which are skimming and scanning. Okay. Before going to skimming and scanning, I would like to show you this image. Again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes only. Tell me your explanation, your understanding of this image. Okay. So you have only 3 minutes, please.
Do you want them to write something or talk?
They can write it in the chat box because this will save time, I think.
I think 3 minutes is too long. Just because
too long.
It's an
I can
online,
make it 2.
It's an online session. So, let's bargain about the time. Okay.
Okay. Can I make it 2 minutes?
A minute.
A minute. Okay.
Oh, I thought you will come to a minute and a half. That's why I said a minute.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, just write something, whatever comes to your mind, right?
Yeah, anything. Just write it in the chat
but
box.
About the picture. About the picture. Yeah.
What do you understand from this picture? Yes, correct. It's business interview. Thank you, Shema. A contract, Saza, thank you, between companies. Talking about business, thank you, Darin. Okay, all what you have mentioned are correct. Just because of time, I cannot go further. Najim, I think the boss was happy because they agreed upon something fruitful. Okay, could be, thank you. Unfortunately, none of you refer to cultural differences. So you see, for example, the difference in colors and maybe the clothes and eye contact, smiling, all these are indication of cultural differences. I will share the full text of this image later by email, just because of time. So I'm going to skimming in details. Skimming is reading rapidly in order to get a general overview of the material, okay? So it's a technique used to quickly read. I've just highlighted the main idea of skimming. So you can just focus on the highlighted phrases or words, reading quickly the main idea. So we focus only on the main ideas. We don't go to details. We focus on the title, the introduction of the first paragraph. As I said, we focus on the first 2 couple sentences at the beginning of each sentence. And we usually, there's a title or a name for these couple of sentences. We call it topic sentence. So each first 2 or 3 paragraphs of each first or 2 sentences of each paragraph is called topic sentence. When you find that topic sentence, so this is the main idea of that paragraph. We also read the headings and subheadings. We try to focus also on the summary and to pick up the important details. for example, names, dates, terminologies. So all these are things that we focus on while skimming any text. In scanning, we have, for example, it's a different technique for reading. We look for specific facts, okay? So there are specific things that we look for while reading that text. It is a technique you often use when looking up a word in the telephone book, for example, or a dictionary. So you are looking maybe even in your contact list on your phone. So you are looking, for example, a specific name. So you scroll up maybe or down until you find that name. We call that scanning. Scanning is another speed reading technique that is useful for people who are learning English online. And as I said, we look for specific information or specific answer to a specific question. We disregard the other details. That means we ignore the other details. Even our eye, when, for example, when you look in your phone list, so you're scrolling down or up maybe very quickly, and if you look in the mirror, you will see your eyes is moving very fast. And we sometimes use the index finger or a pen in order to find that information we are looking for. And scanning the text first is necessary before getting the text essential details. So you first go, for example, to look for that specific information before going to the whole detail of that text. So scanning comes first, then the details. You can also highlight this information, that means the information that you are looking for, so you find it easier in the next time. This technique is very handy when learning English online and taking English text, for example, like IELTS. Then we come to the steps of scanning. State the specific information that you are looking for. First, you have to know what is the information that you are looking for. Is it a name of a person? Is it a name of a street? Is it a name of a hotel? So what is that thing that you are looking for? Is it a number, for example, a result of something? So you have to identify what is that information. Second, try to anticipate how the answer will appear and what clues you might use to help you locate the answer. For example, if you are looking for a certain date, you would quickly read the paragraph looking only for a number, okay? So for example, let's say there were many streets have been opened, for example, in the first decade of for example, the 21st century. So in a specific country or a specific city. So you have to focus on the period which is the first decade of that century. And you also need to find the name of the city. Then you count the name of the streets or the buildings or whatever you are looking for. Third step, use headings and any other aids that will help you identify which sections might contain the information you are looking for. So whatever, for example, you see, for example, X street, Y street, so you see that the word street is a clue that help you to find the name of that street, okay? Selectively read and skip through sections of the paragraph. Just make a quick skipping of the whole paragraph. Just see if you have missed something, okay? You are not going to read all the details, but you are just going quickly through the text. So these are the differences between skimming and scanning. In skimming, we go quickly through the text. We don't look for something very specific or fact. It is there is an idea we look for, but we don't go to all the details of the text or the paragraph. So maybe we focus on the headings, maybe we focus on the summary. This will be enough. In scanning, no, we look for something very specific. For example, a name or a result or a number or whatever. So there's something specific, we only look for that one. And also we have mentioned the steps, how you do that. Then we have models of reading process, which is the last subject in the seminar. We have 3 models. We have bottom up, we have top down, and we have interactive. Okay. In bottom up model of technique, we go to the details, for example, of that text. So bottom up process happens when someone tries to understand language by looking at individual meanings or grammatical characteristics of the most basic units of the text. So we go to detail, even we might analyze, for example, the structure of the sentence. What is that sound? What is that word? What is the function of that word? What is the grammatical analysis of these sentences? So we go to all details. So letters, for example, letters are linked to form words, and words are formed to make sentences, then sentences to make paragraphs, idea, and so on. So this is viewed as a bottom-up processing that shapes the learner's response. Okay, so we start from the smallest to the biggest ones. Top-down is also known as a concept driving model. So it is a reading approach that emphasizes that what the reader brings to the text. So it is the perception of the reader to that text. Okay, what I am giving to that text. It is not what the text only gives me. It contends that reading is driven by meaning and proceeds from whole to part. While in the previous one, the bottom up is different. We go from the smallest to the biggest. In the top down, it is different. We go from the whole to the part. Okay. The interactive model of reading, from the title, it's kind of interaction between the reader and the content of the text. So kind of analyzing discussion between the reader and the material, for example, let's say, how you analyze what you are reading, how you make conclusions, how you do this and that. So it's a kind of conversation, interaction within yourself, and it's a combination of both top-down and bottom-up approaches. Okay, so you try to make connections between the ideas and the meanings of what you have read in that text. Here I come to the end of the seminar and my topic for today, which is about how you promote your reading skills and comprehension. Thank you so much. Dr. Hemdat, shall I go to the comments or leave it to you?
Thank you very much, Dr. Selar, for finishing at your own time, actually. I will be reading some of the questions or some of the comments. You can also go through them, and then we will take some people who will raise their hands later on. I just have one addition to what you have said, is that concerning types of reading, there are different classifications. You mentioned the 4 common ones that are, scanning, skimming, or intensive and extensive. There is another classification which is based on the involvement of the reader with the text. And they are divided into 2 types, passive and active, actually, which are also very important. Passive reading and active reading, they are called. But what you said about the strategies to promote, that's right. And I guess that these strategies may change from what level of that language you are and the age of the reader also. Because if he's let's say an experienced reader, he might have come up with his own strategy. That's none of what we have said. Readers gain experience with the passage of time, and they know themselves. Just like we always say, whatever we have in teaching methods, we have in learning methods from the students' perspective. So reading could be the same. Everyone prefers one strategy over the other, or he may come up or she may come up with a new eclectic strategy, a mixture of a number of strategies together that he or she has gained or has reached at based on his or her experience. Thank you very much. It was interesting. And let's
Thank
see
you to
some,
the addition.
yeah.
Thank you to the addition.
Thank you. Ma Mustahaja says that what you said, that they can draw diagrams and illustrations for scientific texts. She says that we can do that with literary genres like stories, also like dramas. She's a PhD student and specialized in teaching literature. That's why I agree with her also.
Me too.
Mamusta Najmuddin asked a question in the chat box about, I think you answered lately in the last part, whether he says whether skimming and scanning are bottom up or top down, or they are both. I mean, I think he wrote, yeah, top down skills. Are skimming and scanning top down skills? That's what he has a question to you. Again, thanks for Professor Dr. Sami Al-Ma'mouli from University of Diyala, who is with us tonight. Also, I'm Professor Dr. Musbah, I can see him. Assistant Professor Dr. Nada also. So we are glad that they are with us today. You can also go through the comments, Dr. Salat, but I will take Mustajaza Ahmed, I think, who is an English supervisor. Mustajaza, if you would like to speak, go ahead, please. Dr. Salat, you can write the questions and then answer them one by one. You have one question by Imam Nazim if you want to address later on. Imam Jaza, you can unmute, open your mic and talk, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for Mr. Himdat and Dr. Salah. Do you hear me?
Yes, please, Imam Jaza.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, doctor, I have a question about, could you answer me this question? Could you differentiate between reading comprehension passage and answering passage in briefly?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Imam Jaza.
Thanks for you.
Imam Hassan Sharif asks a question, Dr. Salah. What's the difference between main idea and topic sentence? That's what he has written in the chat box. He says he wrote topic sentences, main idea and topic sentences.
Well, usually the topic sentence comes at the beginning of each paragraph, but the main idea may be the whole idea of the whole paragraph. In the main idea, we can have several mini ideas that can be found in the topic sentences. These are the difference.
Okay. About Mamusta Najmuddin's question, whether skimming and scanning are top-down skills or bottom-up.
Skimming and scanning, skimming both can be bottom-up because we only look for something specific. We don't go to details, and I don't think there's a kind of relation between these two. Skimming and scanning are, let's say, they are techniques for reading, while top-down and bottom-up, or the interactive, they are models for reading. And for skimming and scanning, we look for something specific, but in the bottom-up and top-down, in both ways, we read the whole text. But in the bottom-up, we start from the smallest to the biggest idea, while in the top-down, it is vice versa. So in both cases, in both models, we read the whole text, but in the scanning and skimming, we don't need to have to read the whole text. We look for something specific, and we don't need to make any connection between parts of the paragraph. Okay, thank you.
Mustahaja has written some, I think the strategies you mentioned are for teachers to be used while teaching a reading comprehension module in order to develop their students' reading skills. And she says, to the best of my knowledge, these strategies are based on the constructive theory of learning. I think it's not a question, it's just a comment.
Just a comment, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Questions, please. If you want to say something, you can raise your hand. Actually, I don't know whether we have covered. Professor Dr. Sami, do you want to say something? If you want to say something now, we ask you to unmute and honor us with your participation.
Well, there's someone, Mr. Sanger says, does coherence depend on cohesion or vice versa?
Yeah, Sanger Ibrahim.
I'm not sure about if I understood the meaning of your question, sorry.
Sanger, do you want to talk about it? You know, we have cohesion and coherence, so which one depends on the other? That's, I think that's the question.
Well, I think cohesion depends on coherence, because we first have to find the meaning of, let's say, the total idea of what we are reading. So if we do not make any coherence between parts of what we are reading, so how are we going to make cohesion?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm just going through the chat to see if I missed something.
Very good. Professor Dr. Misbah, do you want to say something, sir? Professor Dr. Misbah Al Sulaiman, if you'd like to participate. Okay. No
Do you
problem.
have any raised hand? Because sorry, I cannot go through.
No, you can go through the comments, and if there is anyone else, I can pick them up or ask them to talk. But there's nobody who
Only Mama Stahaja just added, I think in
Okay.
addition to bottom-up and top-down viewpoints of reading, there is another recent model of reading comprehension, which is called metacognitive reading model. Thank you so much for this addition.
Professor Himdad.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, there was a sort of problem with me. Now
No problem. Yes, please. Professor Dr. Misbah Mahmoud Al Sulaiman.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Himdad. You are really great.
Thank you.
You are doing everything for the sake of English language, and we all proud of you.
Thank you,
Second, I would like to congratulate the researcher. She is presenting, or she was presenting a very nice and interesting lecture. However, I have a very small question.
Yes, please.
Please.
As you know, we have cohesion and we have coherence. Which one is semantic element and which one is syntactic element?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your participation, Professor Dr. Misbah. We are always honored and pleased to see you with us. Thank you. The Mamusta Najmadin also has raised his hand, so we'll take his question also and answer both of them. Mamusta Najmadin, you can open your mic, please.
Okay, dear Dr. Himdad and dear Dr. Selar, thank you for both of you for organizing this opportunity for the teachers to make use of this, of your expertise and experience. So I have a question here. What is the difference between reading and listening in terms of speed? And as you said from the beginning of the seminar, in my opinion, I think reading is less stressful than listening, because the most obvious difference are due to with the fact that people read at different speeds and in different ways, while listening is a stressful and actually is a real life skill. Thank you very much for answering me, and thank you for again for organizing this opportunity.
Thank you, Mamustan Najmadin. Yes, Dr. Salar. First, Dr. Misbah question, and then Mom Stan's Madin's question.
Sorry, he said which one is semantic and
Semantic.
which one is
Pragmatic.
pragmatic?
I think that's what I understood.
Because I missed the second part.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure if the answer will be correct, but only depending on my knowledge, because I'm not specialist in, for example, reading skills or something like that. But I think cohesion is semantic, while coherence is pragmatic. And though I'm not sure, but this is my answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
What about Mom Stan's Madin's question?
Mausa Najmadi, he already answered himself. I agree, listening is more difficult than reading because especially in listening, you need to get use of the sounds of the words, words, new pronunciation, or maybe different accents in the same language. So of course, listening is more difficult than reading. And it's also more difficult to be taught.
Okay, thank you. Assistant Professor Dr. Nada, do you want to say something about reading? Because I know you have done research about it, and I think you are either supervising a PhD student or a master's student about using background knowledge for reading, something like that. You want, if you are interested, we ask you to participate. If not, no problem, next time. Dr. Nada, if you want to. Okay, no problem. Next time, inshallah.
We have Mama Sajaza.
Mama Sajaza, is it the older hand
One.
raised or the new one? Mama Sajaza, go ahead, please, if you have a question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salah. She didn't answer my question. I said, could you differentiate between reading comprehension paragraph and unseen passage paragraph? In briefly, please.
And the second one, sorry?
Unseen passage. Unseen passage.
Unseen
passage.
Between reading comprehension and unseen message?
Unseen passage.
Passage. Okay. The difference between them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, reading comprehension from the word reading, the text should be in front of you. You read it in order to understand it, to comprehend it. And an unseen message, for example, someone must read it for you, otherwise how you understand it. So it is kind like between a difference between comprehension and listening, because the second type of understanding will depends on your listening skills. So of course there is difference. Reading comprehension, the text should be there, while the unseen passage, how you understand it, so unless there's someone's reading for you. So of course there's difference, and the unseen one will be more difficult to understand and comprehend because you don't see it and you depend on the pronunciation and the sound of the person who is reading for you. Thank you.
Okay, just a personal experience about reading, actually. As I said, it changes from one person into another. It may, I mean, you accumulate experience in reading with that. When I read a literary text, it is one way, one strategy. But when I read, for example, a linguistic or a scientific academic work, it is something different. It all depends on the purpose of reading, whether it is for general knowledge, for pleasure, or you are after a specific piece of information. And for literary works, usually poetry that I read a lot, actually poems, I prefer to read them while I'm alone, and I use that strategy of reading as aloud. It's called aloud, but I call it sometimes murmuring also to yourself, but it's not not loud enough to be heard by your surrounding.
Yeah.
So this could be a midway between reading silent and reading aloud. I mean, the moderate way. It's neither silent nor aloud that it could be heard by your surrounding. I don't know whether we can consider this a separate part or type of reading or not, but that's a personal experience, especially with literary works that I read. And I try to, it's neither scanning nor skimming. I call it a mixture. I sometimes stop at specific couplets and then reread them again. It's just sometimes in some places you go quick, just like a quick scan, and then sometimes you stop and you make it intensive. So it's not an either or type of reading. You say either intensive or extensive. As I said, if you are reading for pleasure, for example, you in some places you go quick, and then in some lines or couplets you stop there because maybe that poetic image captures you. Maybe that poetic image is so nice that you want to read it over and over until it is stuck in your mind. So I just wanted to share this personal experience.
Well, actually, this is very correct. There was also another type, as you said, extensive. I found it in another source. It was written detailed instead of extensive one. So that's also another type exactly of reading. But when I prepared this one, I was focusing on a sample of students because so I didn't want to go to many other details. Of course, there are many other aspects to be covered in order to teach reading and reading comprehensions, difficulties with reading. So there are a lot of things we can cover yet. But that seminar was mostly prepared for beginners, for students, just to help them understand the language in a better, easier way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Dr. Rozgar suggests something that fast reading skills and techniques, how to read fast. He says is an interesting and important, relevant topic which deserves, a separate webinar for it. So thank you, Dr. Rozgar, for the suggestion. We will take it into consideration. That's for sure.
Mr. Haja says cohesion is syntactic and coherence is semantic.
Yeah, Professor Dr. Misbah was, which one is syntactic, which one is semantic, not pragmatic. That was my, he said syntactic, so Dr. Haja is helping here.
I wrote it pragmatic, sorry.
Yeah. Okay,
because the former deals with the unity of structure of a text and the later with the unity of ideas. Thank you so much, Mr. Haja.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. If so, we are going to end the session. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Selar Othamn Ali from Erbil Polytechnic University. It was an interesting topic, and we got benefit from it, and then we can apply it with our students also when teaching reading skill or even for our personal benefits. Thank you for dear audience that stayed with us for around an hour and 15 minutes. And we really appreciate their participation, their contribution through questions and comments via the chat box or their direct questions and comments. We would like to thank the staff of the MegaMind Academy for their preparations with the registration form, with the posters, with the groups, especially Mr. Shamal, Ms. Firmesk, and Mr. Shtiwan. And we will share the slides, right, Dr. Salah? We share the slides with them after the link would be ready in the groups and the emails, so that you can also share it with your contacts and with your students, with your co-teachers or co-staff, because so that as many people as possible would get benefit from the contents. Stay tuned for further activities from MegaMind Plus Academy in the coming weeks, inshallah. And thank you very much again, and have a good night.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Himdat.
Thank you.